Okay, so we are going to be talking about home organizing mistakes that I have seen actually working with clients. And I'm going to be covering 20 of them. And I know that seems like a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through them quickly. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, it's not going to take me too long, hopefully, to go through these, but they are important. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes. So let's just dive right in. All right. So number one, oh, and by the way, I saved the last one, the best for the last. So stay till the end for that one. All right. So number one is setting unrealistic expectations. And so what people tend to do sometimes is for example, they might say, hey, I'm going to, spend Saturday and I'm going to organize my bedroom. I'm going to just declutter and organize my bedroom. And then what happens is Saturday comes along and they get started, but they don't get it finished. And then they feel bummed out because really it was maybe unrealistic to be able to get it done in one day. Like if you're doing all your drawers in your closet and everything else, it may take more than a day. So people do tend to say that, I'm going to get something done by a certain time and it just isn't possible. So setting unrealistic expectations is number one. Number two is failing to maintain. So what happens is we get things decluttered, we get a room organized, and we feel great about it. But then over time, we tend to backslide and things start to pile up again. And so that is really about, creating systems, routines, and habits going forward so that you can maintain it. So that is definitely a mistake, not maintaining, right? Number three is not letting go. So you start your decluttering process, but you're like, oh, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to keep this. And honest to goodness, you have to let things go. If you have way too much for the space you have to let things go. And so that is a mistake with some people because they really struggle to let go. Number four is moving things from one place to another. And then it kind of like never finds a home, because what you do is you're like, oh, I'm going to tidy up I don't know, my kitchen table because there's things on there. But then you pick up the stuff from your kitchen table and then you just move it to, another room, for example, or somewhere else in the kitchen, and you end up putting it somewhere else temporarily just so that the other room is cleaned up. But what happens is you're just moving things from one place to the other, right? So that doesn't really work. Number five is putting unrelated items into containers or baskets, drawers, etc. So what I mean by that is, like, you might have a container with a bunch of random stuff and they're not related, right? So you could have, some things that are food related mixed up with, I don't know, something else that's just not related to food, right? So that happens actually quite often, that, we'll be going, when I used to go into people's homes or when I'm working with people online, they will show me something and they'll say, hey, don't know what to do with this. And when they open it up, it's a container with a bunch of random stuff, right? So instead, you want to keep like items with like items in those containers or your drawers or your baskets. Wherever you're keeping it, you want to keep like items with like items and not a bunch of mishmash. So that was number five, putting unrelated items into your drawers or baskets, for example. Number six is piling paper. Okay, so what people sometimes do, and you can see if this relates to you, is that they'll be tidying up and they'll just put all the paper into a pile. And then it feels like it's tidied up. But in reality, that is a mistake because it's not organized. It's just in a pile. And piles of paper is really not the answer. You have to create a system for your paper so that it is organized. Number seven is storing everyday items out of reach and then non-everyday items within reach. So what I mean by that is that, sometimes I've seen people where, their systems aren't flowing, and it's because the things they use the most often are not close by. So we want to change that up so that the things you use often are close by, and the things you don't use often are not close by. So for example, if you're you know, have an office setting or you have a area set up with your printer. If your printer is close to, you know, the desk or where you tend to work, then it's nice and convenient. And you don't want to have to go down the hall to use your printer, right? Now, or if you are like, maybe, for example, you use your crock pot once a year and it's taking up space, valuable real estate space in your kitchen, then I would say, hey, you don't use it very often, put that somewhere else, maybe in storage, for example, if you can, or in the back of your cupboard where you don't, I don't like to put too many things in the back of a cupboard, but if you need to, then those would be the items that you just don't use often. So that's putting unrelated items into, oh, sorry, that was sorting everyday items out of reach and storing everyday items that you need often within reach. All right, so number 8 is buying organizing supplies before you declutter. You may have heard me say this before, but you know, I've gone into people's homes where they have a stack of beautiful home organizing products, but the problem is that they didn't know how to use them or they didn't need them. So my suggestion is to buy your supplies after you organize. Like, declutter first. And a lot of times when you're decluttering, you're going to come across empty bins because you're going to empty a bin, right? So then you can use that going forward. So my suggestion is don't buy your supplies until after you've decluttered and then see what you have and then get the supplies. That was number 8. Number 9 is neglecting to measure. So that's when you go to the store and you buy all those beautiful products and then you come home and they don't fit in your cupboards. So you don't want to do that, right? So you want to make sure that if you're thinking of buying an organizing product, that you actually measure the space first to make sure that it fits. Number 10 is not dropping off your donations or selling your items. And honest to goodness, I've seen this so many times where people would say, okay, I'm going to sell this. So they have a big pile of sell items, but then 6 months later or a year later, it's still sitting there, right? So you don't want to do that. You want, if you're going to sell something, you got to give yourself a deadline, like put it up for sale right away. You know, take a picture, post it right away so that it's out of your house, right? And then for things of donations, it's kind of the same idea. You'll declutter, you'll put all your clothes into a bag, for example, that you want to donate, but then the bag just sits there and then you find that you don't have the time to do it. My suggestion would be just put it right in your car so that you can drop it off as soon as possible. It's a good reminder, but sometimes people will do that and then it stays there. So not dropping it off is not a good idea. As soon as you do it, get it out of that house within a day. That's my suggestion. Okay, so that's number 10. Number 11 is getting hung up on making decisions. So like decision paralysis, right? So what I mean by that is, you know, you're not sure what to do or you can't make a decision. And then if you don't make a decision, you're not going to get any results. You have to make a decision on what you're going to do and you need to stick to it, right? So make some kind of decision. Anything is better than nothing, but don't get stuck with not making the decisions. Okay, so that was number 11. Was it? Yes. Getting hung up on making decisions. It was number 11. Okay, so number 12. Number 12 is getting too fixated on Instagram and Pinterest photos. Okay, so this, you know, I love looking at those photos too. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. And if your goal is to reach that, those type of photos, then by all means do it. But sometimes they aren't realistic. Like sometimes it's just not realistic at all because, you know, sometimes they're staged or sometimes they're just, you know, sometimes you don't have a lot of items in those pictures, right? There's a lot of space around the items, which just looks nice, but it may not be realistic for your home. So try not to worry about Pinterest and Instagram. Focus on something. Now, hey, I'm on Instagram, but I just want you to make sure that you're not focusing on perfection. I think that's mainly what I'm trying to drive at, because those pictures are pretty darn perfect, right? So you don't have to be perfect. Anything is better than nothing. But if that's the look you want, then I'll by all means go for it. But keep in mind that it may not be perfect. That's all. Okay. So number 13 is organizing more than one space at a time. And this is so common, right? You start in your bedroom, and then next thing you know, you're in your kitchen and you're starting to tidy up your kitchen, but then you didn't finish the bedroom. So my suggestion is, if you want to focus on, like, you know what, I'm tackling a room to, I'm going to tackle a room and my goal is to get that room done. So let's just say it's the bedroom. Well, then I want you to focus on the bedroom and only the bedroom until it's done. Don't worry about tackling the other rooms. Don't jump from one room to another. Don't one day do a bit in your bedroom, and then the next day you do a bit in your basement, and the next day you do a bit in your bathroom. Instead, focus on one room, get it done, and then move on to the next room. That's my suggestion. All right. That was organizing more than one space at a time. We are now going to go on to 14, which is organizing but not decluttering. Right? And I know sometimes people say, I just need it organized, but they don't declutter. And we can only organize so much without decluttering. If you have way too much for the space that you have to let things go. So, going in there and trying to tidy it up, sometimes it works. Hey, if it works, great. But sometimes it doesn't because you have too much stuff. So you actually have to let things go. So that was number 14, organizing but not decluttering. We're going to move on now to number 15, which is creating a system that doesn't work for all your family members. So sometimes we have something in mind where we want it to look, but it doesn't work for our other family members. So I suggest that you try to find, compromise so it works for everyone, because it's just easier that way if everybody can follow the system. So try to create a system that works for everyone. Number 16 is not labeling. And if you don't want to label your items, that's okay. Some people don't want to. That's okay. But I find it's easier, especially if you're a visual learner or if you have ADHD, definitely, it is easier to find your items when they're labeled, and it's easier to put them away as well. So not only finding them, but putting them away is a lot easier when things are labeled. So I recommend that you do label as much as you can. But that's me. I have talked to people, they say they don't like labels, and that's okay too. It's really about what works for you. And just on backtrack there for a second. If you have other people living in your home and it is labeled, it's easier for everyone that way. So it's just something to consider. Okay. Number 17 is decluttering other family members' items. And I get it. You have somebody living in your home, they have a lot of stuff. You just want to go through it and let it all go, or like just keep the things that you think that are important for that family member, but it doesn't work very well. I don't know if you've tried it, but it doesn't normally work. And so I would recommend that you work on your own items and then try to get your family member to work on theirs. And I know it's not always easy, but you can certainly focus on yours and getting your results. They may see that how organized you've become, and they may want to do the same. And if not, then you got to let them know, like, you know what, this is really upsetting me. This is bothering me. It's giving me stress, anxiety. We need to tackle it, and I'd like you to help. All right. So that's decluttering other family member stuff. Don't recommend it. Okay. Where were we here? So now we're at number 18. We're almost done. Hang in there with me. 18 is designating home organizing for a single day. What I mean by that is that sometimes people will say, you know what, on Saturday, I am going to declutter, I don't know, your bedroom, for example. And you're like, I really, really, really want my bedroom to look nice. I want it to feel good. I want to feel peace when I wake up in the morning, when I go to bed. So I am going to focus on decluttering my bedroom on Saturday. So now some people work well like that, and if that works for you, great. But often the problem with that is that Saturday comes along and you may be tired, or you may be sick, or you may have something come up that you need to do. So now you're putting it off again, right? So rather than save it for one day, I recommend that you kind of do a bit each day if you can. Like, I know people have very busy schedules, but is there any way you can schedule 20 minutes? If you were to do 20 minutes in your bedroom for a week, and I mean 20 minutes, just taking 20 minutes and tackling small tasks in your bedroom, that's going to be over 2 hours for the week, right? Once 7 days come, it's over 2 hours. So, it's your call. But what happens when we do that, or you may lose momentum that Saturday and you just don't want to do it. So I don't recommend that you leave everything to one day. I recommend that you say, you know what, I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to tackle it every day if I can, or 5 days out of 7. So that is number 18. Number 19 is don't finish a task. And I hear this a lot, right? You start something, but you don't finish it. So often I find what happens is that we'll start a task and then our phone will ring, or we'll get an email, or social media will bing us, and your phone bings because something's happening in social media world. And what happens, we get distracted. So my suggestion is to say, you know what, I'm going to spend 30 minutes, for example, on a task, and I don't want any interruptions. So you shut off your notifications, maybe put a timer on if that works for you. Not everybody needs one, but if you think that would work for you, I do know that people in our Calm the Clutter program have told me it works for them, because they know that, okay, I'm putting this timer on for 30 minutes. And in that 30 minutes, my focus is on a decluttering or organizing task. So that might help you when you start something to finish it. The other thing too is to not make such a big project, because sometimes if it's so big, you're not going to finish it, right? You won't have time to finish it in one day or whatever. So focus on the small tasks. All right. So that's not finishing a task. Number 20, which is, I said, what I was saving for the last, is that if you're really struggling and you're not seeing progress and, it's just not working for you, then I suggest that you get help. And either you ask a family member to help you reach out to anyone for help. But if you don't want to bother other people with your organizing journey, then I recommend that you reach out to me and see if there's anything I can send you or help you. A lot of people are in the Calm the Clutter program. That works really well because we focus on all rooms of a home. There's so much content in the Calm the Clutter program. I'm not going to go into it right now. That's not really what this is about, but I do want you to consider our Calm the Clutter program. Reach out to me if you have any questions. And, maybe I'll just mention a couple of things that the students have said. One said to me, the Calm the Clutter program was the boot camp I needed. Thanks to Kathy, my house feels more like a home. Another person said, Calm the Clutter showed me the steps to organize my home and keep it organized while giving me the freedom to let go. And also was mentioned the video tours of Kathy's home was inspiring. Now I have to tell you, the video tours that are in the Calm the Clutter program are actually of my previous home, because I moved last year. So it's not my home where I'm living now, but it still has the videos that I go through. Is really showing you how to organize areas of your home. And, it's the same principles. It's just it may not be where I'm staying right now. But hey, maybe I'll do some videos of my current home and add those to it. I don't know. But definitely check out the Calm the Clutter program. And like I said, reach out if you have any questions. Just send me a message with the words Calm the Clutter, and I will help you out with any questions that you may have. All right. So that's it for now. And I'll see you soon. Bye.